Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me personally, my name is Mark. Professionally, I'm a lifestyle financial planner. I typically work with women in finance, helping them identify, achieve, and maintain the lifestyle they want without the fear of running out of money. Personally, I'm married to my beautiful wife, Nicole. I'm a father to my two amazing children, Luke and Sephora, and my family really is my purpose. They're the reason that I do what I do every day. And together we're on a journey to building our best lives together. My clients are also like my family, to be honest. And I really feel blessed that I get to help them and do this work with them as well, helping them live their best lives. Our guest this morning is Linda Dent of Just Ask Linda Business Consulting. Professionally, Linda is a respected business coach. She delivers valuable insights and focused actions for many small businesses, enabling them to grow their businesses. She works with clients across the globe. Prior to stepping into the entrepreneurial space, Linda worked in the world of corporate finance for around 35 years, spending her time across the various different banks in South Africa. Personally, Linda is married to her husband, Evan, and has been for 30 years. That's quite a feat, Linda. Well done on that. They've got two grown-up daughters. Lauren, who's a game ranger, which is pretty cool, works up in Mala in the Kruger, and Morgan, who's a sound engineer, studying to become a music lawyer. Right, so on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Quite interesting. Just some quick housekeeping. The webinar will be very informal. We welcome all and any questions. Please send them through as we're going along. We'd like to keep it engaging. We'll address them as we're chatting, and the ones that we don't get to, we'll do at the end. Yeah, this is not going to be a death by PowerPoint presentation. Linda and I are just going to have a conversation, and we'll engage with you guys as we go along as well. We will stick to the time. We'll honor your time. Thank you for giving us that time. So 45 minutes max, and then questions at the end. Yeah, so look, just before we hand over, we've got a quick poll that we'd like to ask. Marcus, if you can just pop that up, please, just to get some engagement and see who all is here. So are you considering stepping out of your corporate role and building something of your own? Just to give us an idea as to where everybody's head is at in this conversation. So yes, I don't know how, not yet, but I'm considering it, or no, right? Which is interesting if it's a no that you're then here. So look, Linda, I think while those answers come in, maybe a good place to start is you spent 35 years in the corporate world, right? It comes with its pros and its cons. What was life like for you in the corporate world, and sort of what then made you step out of that?
Hi, and welcome to all our attendees today. Thank you for that question, Mark. I'm very excited to be here for this conversation. So back in eons ago, when I was a young girl, I walked into a bank in England with my grandfather, and I was taken aback by the kind of grandeur and importance of banking in those days. And I said to him, one day I'm going to be a banker. So he said, well, then, study hard and do well in your exams, and one day you can be a banker. So this was at the age of 12, and at the age of 17, I immigrated to South Africa, and within 1 week, I was working at the Standard Bank Randburg in Johannesburg. Banking has been my life for 35 years. For the majority of it, I was a corporate banker. And as a corporate banker or corporate relationship manager, my role was to work with clients, to work directly with them, to call on them personally, and to troubleshoot motivate lending applications, connect them with other parts of the bank, and facilitate a great relationship with them. I loved it. It was kind of the best thing for many, many, many years. So I really appreciate that question, Mark, because I know the today is about breaking free of the corporate shackles, and breaking free sounds like it's something to escape from, like a prison. And most of the time, it's not. There are so many advantages of staying in the corporate world or being in it that I received over those years. Yes, there's rewards in money, in bonuses if you perform well, in shares if you get up the ladder, and if you even really operate at a high level, you get that opportunity to develop your leadership skills. And not only that, there's so much training, and there's exposure to so many clients. And I'm telling you this, guys, because I'd like you to think carefully before you decide to take a leap, for those of you who are into entrepreneurship, because it needs to be a careful decision and one that you weigh up the pros and cons, as I did. So corporate life is not all that bad. Got a lot of value, a lot to it. But what if you are feeling stuck?
Yeah.
What if you're not feeling comfortable anymore?
I think
that's a question we should look at. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, look, Linda, I think you've painted a picture that there is an allure to the corporate world, especially starting out initially, right? You look up and people are climbing this ladder and they're earning well and they're living a specific type of lifestyle, which is all great. And like you say, before you step out, you need to make sure that you're prepared to leave that. But I think for me, it's if it's so great for so long, what was your catalyst maybe that made you want to leave, right? Why did you step out of all of that?
Yeah, exactly the point, right? Yeah, what changed? What caused this disconnect? And my story may resonate with some of you. It may not be exactly like some of you. So I apologize if it's not your story, but it's a good idea to think through your story. So mine is that after 30 odd years of working, I got to that stage of life, right? So I turned 50, the midlife crisis kind of stage. Linda, she's calm, rational, level-headed, very logical, left-brained, analytical, number crunching, serious, no feeling kind of person, right? That's me. Okay. So I
works well in a corporate world, right?
And it worked well, right? Exactly. I fit into that mold. Everything was going smoothly. And I don't know if it's because I turned 50. It could be anything, but a lot sort of happened at that time. My children were finishing school. My older parents were moving in. The culmination of a lot of things were happening. But more than that, I think stuff was changing in me. And it resulted in me just not being accepting of the situation in the corporate world, that it was all about the money. It was all about the results. It was all work, 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 and no play. Yeah. No, very little fun. It was these 12, 14-hour days. It was bringing work home with you. While my children were growing up, when they were small, it's rushing here and rushing there and trying to be super mom the whole time. Yeah. I thought I got it right? But suddenly you end up kind of falling off a cliff and realizing that this is not a life. This is not all of it. I want more. And I know this story is not just my story, because I've heard it from so many entrepreneurs who now refer to this situation of you know, when I got out of corporate, when I left corporate, I had the same kind of situation. And now I've got my own business and I'm much, much happier. And that certainly is true for me. Even my husband, within a month of leaving the bank and starting my own business, he said, I've got my happy wife back.
Sure.
That kind of struck me hard, because I just ignored relationships, you know, really just taken them all for granted in the interest of climbing that ladder and earning as much money as I could. And
Linda, maybe if I, sorry, if I could just jump in there. You said something which resonates a lot with me and the work that we do. You wanted more, right? And I think there's probably a big difference in what more means when you reach that point, because from my experience working with clients in this space, more up until this point meant more money, more status, more career growth, and I think the shift is, well, I want more, but I want more life, maybe more for me, more well-being, more fulfillment, more freedom, and maybe that, you know, so it's that the disconnect between what more means for you at different stages in your life.
That's 100% right. Yeah. So that what actually happened was that I had one day, for a long time, I was building up with a lot of tension in my shoulders, some tightness in my chest. And remember, I said, I'm like a very healthy person. I was hardly ever sick. And then this one day, the screen was blurry. My hands were shaking. I had a really tight chest. I felt like lightheaded. I thought maybe it's my blood sugar. And then off I went to get a chocolate and a Coke. And in the queue at the canteen, I felt like I'm going to have a heart attack. And it was kind of all the symptoms, right? You know, and you don't do yourself any favors by Googling these symptoms, and they tell you this could be a heart attack. And then I took myself off to a clinic very close by. I mean, I was so nervous about asking other people and bothering them and causing a fuss. So I go by myself. Long story short, you know, I had ECG, X-rays, all sorts of assessments, blood tests. And the doctor came after 3 hours and said, you just had a panic attack. And I was like, what? I don't do that sort of thing. It's that typical kind of what people used to refer to as nervous breakdown, or it's common these days. I think this anxiety and mental, you know, issues that we have, it had all just come into one big ball. And the result was that I took 2 weeks off work, did a lot of reflection, and said, something's got to change. My brain just told me, by manufacturing symptoms that were real, that Linda, this is wrong. You need to get out. You need to make this change. So there was a pull in the sense of wanting more, needing more, and there was a definite push on the health front, right? Just get out and get on with something right now.
And I think so often, Linda, we tend to ignore these signs that show up in our body. Like it shows up in different ways, and you know, anxiety sets in, and you carry it in your shoulders, and you know, your health starts to deteriorate. But like you said, it was two things. Your body was telling you, well, we can't carry on like this. And then obviously, you know, you had made the decision that more means something different to you now.
Yeah.
So that all makes sense, and thanks for sharing that. There had to come a time where you had to say, now, okay, cool, so I'm actually going to do this, right? And what does this mean, and what does it look like, and how did you do that?
Right. Yeah. There's some steps, right? You don't just one day wake up and go, I've got to change, hand in the resignation, and then sit at home going, I wonder what I'm going to do next. Because there's a huge amount of, I think you put it in the preamble for this particular webinar, is there's some shackles, right? You know, there's something holding you back. There's a lot of money. I mean, safety net. I'm not going to share money, you know, but I earned a really good salary. I got bonuses. I had shares.
Yeah, those are those corporate shackles.
I was coming up for my 15-year anniversary where I would have got like a 5,000 Rand gift voucher or something. You know, and yeah, and the safety and the security and the friendships and the work, all of it was just holding you back, right? It was just holding you back. So yeah, there was quite a process. So I had to, first of all, I didn't actually know what I was going to do. I think a lot of people maybe have a side business while they're working, or a hobby that's, you know, making furniture, and perhaps that they'd like to go into that business and not quite sure how to do it. So there's people with the craft and creativity that can develop that into a business. In my case, though, there were some steps. One of the steps was get to understand what I actually want, right? So I've decided I don't want this. What do I want in terms of workplace, the hours I'd like to work, the amount of money I'm happy to settle for in terms of an income. So I had to ask myself a lot of questions, and I did that by writing down the questions, a lot of the why, what, how, when, who, and then answering all these questions for myself. I also went out and spent a lot of time having coffee, even while I was working, right? I just snuck out for tea time or lunchtime and sat with people outside of the bank. So I started to connect myself with new people so that I could start to investigate what are the options out there, what else is out there that potentially could be the path that I would go down. And lastly, well, not lastly, but for now, lastly, it was really getting to understand the financial implications of making such a decision. And then also, like, still at this point, I still didn't really know what I was going to do, but we'll come back to that now. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think I just before we get to the poll, you know, something you said there, you know, you figured out, you know, what you don't want. So what is it that you do want? And I think that is an opportunity that people don't really give themselves. And when looking at it, it's really the opportunity to build your ideal life, right? You know, what do you want life to look like? How do you want your days to be? Who do you want to work with? What do those people add to your life? What can you add to their life? And then the financial side of it is, all right, I'm stepping out, but, you know, how much do I actually need to get me through all of this initially and in the long run? It really is an opportunity to build something that you love and enjoy. And I don't think we should take that for granted, but it's also some hard work, right? But maybe just before we move forward, let's just look at those answers to the poll. So, yeah, so look, there's 42% of people said that they're thinking about it, but they're just not sure how. 25% said yes, they want to move, and 21 said not yet, but they're considering it. Only 13% of people said no, right? So this is clearly a topic on a lot of people's minds in terms of trying to get out. I'm just
we should ask them at the end.
yeah, if they're still keen, if they're still interested.
It might switch either way. They might stay, or there might be more they want to.
I think something you mentioned, and it's just a point that Madalito has raised here, you know, saying that she's currently got a side hustle, but it's not enough to sustain her family. And she's struggling with how do you set up a sustainable business without having access to capital. And maybe quickly from my side, I think this is where the planning comes in, Linda. You said it's not something you just rock up the next day and resign. You know, it's something you've got to plan for, right? So if you're going to step out and Madalito, it looks like you've got something to step into, it's just not financially sustainable, I guess, at this point in time. You know, you really got to look at the numbers and say, okay, so when can I afford to step out? How much capital do I need to raise before I step out? Yeah, it's not easy. Maybe you can jump in here, Linda.
I can. So, I mean, let's get real here, Madalito. It is difficult to access capital as a entrepreneur. It's painted that it should be easy, but it's absolutely difficult to do unless, I'm just going to generalize a little bit here, but generally, unless you are going to build a big business over the next few years that is in an industry that will create jobs, lots of them, and is an industry that is a growth industry for South Africa, something like infrastructure or technology or education facilities, online education, for example. It's almost impossible to get that sort of funding. You could go to a bank, but there, very just briefly, you would need to have a clean credit record, a long current account with that bank for a long time, really, and being really good at putting money in and just drawing it out and never overdraft. And you would need probably security, like security, solid security, like a bond or a pledge. Some assets, some investments, or a suretyship from the father or mother or husband, or somebody with assets. So again, it's not simple. It really is difficult to get access to finance. How I did it is very simple, but long term. So right at the beginning of my career, I had the fortune of being introduced to a financial advisor, financial planner, who said you should put at least 20% of your salary away every month. I only earned 500 Rand those days, but I put 200 Rand away into what they called an endowment policy then. That endowment policy paid out, I think it was over 100,000 Rand when I turned 45. I didn't cash it in at the time. I reinvested it. Every time I moved from employment to employment, the Provident Fund moved with me. I never cashed it in or took it. So it started to build and grow and carry on. I invested in retirement annuity. So when I was earning that big salary, I was putting 5,000 or 10,000 Rand away a month into a retirement annuity. So it does take time, but what that all culminated in is at the age of 51, making the decision to do this, I was able to do a withdrawal on one of these investments sufficient to keep my business, or keep me alive, let's say, for 12 months before I made a salary out of the business. And it's a minimum of 12 months, guys. You can't expect to walk out, and even with your side hustle, and walk out and immediately generate
replace what you've been earning in the corporate world that's taken you so long to build.
Correct. The second thing is, if you are considering this, those of you who are considering it, take a long, hard look at what you're spending your salary on. So I found that I was able to reduce my spending by 60% as a result of that exercise. There were things that I was buying and spending on just because I had the money to do it. So it's a real tighten the belt exercise for that first year of business. You really have to drop your living standards as much as you can if you're serious about getting your own business off the ground. And I think these are the things, Mark, that people forget about. And then these are the things that cause that statistic, and the statistic varies, right? But it's 75, 80, 90%, something like that, of all small businesses fail within the first 2 years.
Sure. And that's because there wasn't sufficient planning done.
Planning,
Yeah, I think, when you talk about access to capital, from a planning perspective, I would want not to leave anything to chance, right? So if we're going to do this, there's there's the emotional side behind why we're stepping out, but then there's the financial side. And I think the financial side, if you plan this sort of move with enough time, you can self-fund it, right? So you can build up the capital to give yourself, like you did, that a 12-month gap, right? So for 12 months, your business doesn't need to produce. You're not reliant on it producing anything for you, which gives it a great run to do what it needs to do. Something you also touched on is we get very attached to the number that we earn, and we spend accordingly, like you said, right? It's lifestyle creep. So if you earn 100,000, you probably spend 100,000, unless those balances, those foundations have been instilled early on in you, where you're saving and you're consistently saving and not just spending more. But once you look at that and go into that 100,000 in this example and say, okay, well, what is actually necessity? What is luxury? And what are you prepared to cut out, right? Because it's a trade-off. For a certain period of time, you have to make trade-offs, right? But I guess your positive well-being and what you receive on the other end makes it worthwhile. So knowing that sort of information is crucial to stepping out, right?
Absolutely, spot on. So yeah, I say everyone's story is not going to be exactly the same, but let me just share one of a lady who lives in my street, and she and I got to know each other through a networking group that really helped build my business as well. And we had a chat the one day, and she said, I'm really keen to move out and do what you've done and start my own business. I've got a great idea. It was to be a virtual assistant, or to do cold calling, which all of us hate, to do some cold calling sales. And I said, it sounds like a brilliant idea, but do you have, we crunched the numbers together. We worked out like exactly what I've just described to you guys. How much can you cut out of your expense budget? Okay, so this is the amount you need to cover your monthly expenses personally and any business expenses you might have. Like you might need extra Wi-Fi data. You might need a computer, right? You might need some business cards. So that there might be something that you need to spend in the business arena. So you add those two numbers together and it becomes your break-even minimum. So let's say that number was 20,000. And I said to her, do you have at least 12 months of that? So, do you have 250,000 set aside or available to you from a provident fund or from an investment? Or do you have a nice rich uncle who's willing to invest in you and your business? That could be an option. I've actually come across a client who's got exactly that, a rich uncle who's investing in her startup business. So it's not impossible, right? You can ask. So one of those options, but she said, no, I don't have the rich uncle. I don't have the sort of provident fund monies or investments set aside. I can't go to the bank. I only have, don't have the assets to back that loan up. So now my only option is to put money away that she earned commissions in her corporate job. So I said, can you take some of that commission, especially when you get a bulky commission, and rather than spending it, just put it in a savings for your new business? So she even opened the account and she styled it with the name of her new business. So it's for that. And exactly what she did, right? That throughout 2019 and 2020, she was still working for this company. She wanted to start a business at the beginning of 2020. Thank goodness she didn't, right? She stayed with the corporate. So another 12 months with the corporate. She put that money away and she started a business, and she's rocketing now because she hasn't got the stress attached to not earning something some months. She's got backup. She's got the backup. And that was the same story for me. So if you don't have it, you can't get access to finance, you don't have a rich uncle, I would recommend patience. Another 12 or 24 months at your corporate job, work as hard as you can, settle in somehow, make sure you have some me time and get away and take your leave, but put some money away so that you can step into your dreams in the not too distant future.
So Linda, I think you you touch on something, the planning aspect, which you've spoken about, but also timelines, right? Which are important to understand. What other timelines do you really come into play here?
Okay, so I'm the ultimate planner, right? To-do lists every day, diary, calendars all scheduled out. It's like don't leave anything to chance kind of person. If I go away on holiday, I'm gonna plan out all the journey so we don't travel too far each day. I've booked all the accommodation. I've looked it up on booking.com. I've checked the reviews. I'm happy with all of that. I've paid the deposits. We all sorted. Nothing.
Probably why we get along, Linda.
Nothing serious is going to go wrong, right? And if it does,
yeah.
I've got that little bit of flexibility that says, oh, this is a bit of fun, right? It's nothing serious.
You've planned for something to go wrong, so it's cool. It can go wrong. It's okay.
It's still exactly. So, I mean, exactly the point, right? I plan for something to go wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we all need to do if we're going to go into business. What could go wrong here? So if we can cover that, it isn't all about how many sales can I make and can I make my client happy and what's the opportunity. It's going to be, can I do this for the long term? Is it really going to satisfy all those needs, all of your needs, money, love, your own independence, freedom, all of it. And so, yeah, that's the that's the key point, right? Yeah, plan for the future. So you asked me about what are the timelines. In my case, once I'd had this sort of heart attack thing, it still took 9 months before I actually left the bank. So during those 9 months, I mean, I'd started my journey the year before, having a lot of conversations with people. Then this accelerated a bit, but for those 9 months, I eventually found out what I wanted to be, which was a business coach. And it so ticked all the boxes for me because it's all about planning and action. Things I'm really good at. It's about number crunching and financial planning and all the elements of business, which was exactly what I was doing as a corporate banker, was combining all the elements of a relationship with the client and understanding all aspects of what they did, whether it was marketing, operations, finance, sales, people, the works. So it was an opportunity to combine all of that experience and make a difference, right? Which we all want to do, to have people get valuable advice and insights. It makes me feel great when they smile at me and say they learned something, but even better is when they achieve some results. Then we just celebrate together. So at the time, I'm digressing a little, but the business coach was what I decided to be. So that happened probably around July of 2018. And then from then until November, I was investigating who can I connect with, who can tell me more, how do I set this up, what can my process be, what the packages, what can I charge. So I was doing a lot of experimentation kind of on the side.
So before you left, actually, yeah.
Before I left, networking was a key thing because I had 2 questions, right? How am I going to make money? Well, 3 questions. How am I going to make money? Who out there cares about what it is that I can offer?
Yeah.
And thirdly, where am I really going to find these clients? I only knew bank people, right? And bank people weren't going to be my clients because they're all corporate analysts. So I had to find a whole new network, and that's what I did. I spent the time doing that, and then eventually I felt comfortable enough to do it. And sitting in an airport one day, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write while I'm waiting for the plane. I'm going to write my resignation letter, and that was on a Friday. And on the Monday, I handed it in, and all the tension just drained from my neck and shoulders. It was the right thing to do. I felt so good after that. And 1 month of work, work the month's notice, 2 weeks off over Christmas, New Year. 4th of Jan, I was sitting with my brand new laptop, hitting the sales and the marketing.
Awesome. So yeah, that's a lot. So clearly it's a process, right? We're
Right.
saying this again. It's not something you do tomorrow. It's a process. But I think there's two aspects. There's the planning, but there's an emotional side. And what I'm hearing, it's not easy, right? And there's probably a lot of fear that you sit with. How do you deal with that? The fear of am I going to be a success? Is it going to be a failure? Am I making the right decision? Am I not? All of these things tend to cause inertia, right? So we do nothing. We just stay still.
Yeah. The fear is real, right? That's the fear of not knowing if you're good enough to do this. The fear of leaving the comfort zone, because your work,
shackles. Yeah.
Your corporate shackles is an absolute comfort zone. The fear of not earning anything, but I think really of not being useful for me was a fear, and the fear of losing my independence. So I was wanting independence, right, from that. But what I mean by the fear of independence is, you said earlier, I've been married to Evan for 30 years. And in that whole time, I've been very independent. I got my own accounts, my own credit cards, my own career, my own decisions, so, and him as well. So, but yeah, we've worked really well together. But the fear of being dependent on him was great for me. I didn't like that. And it took a very courageous conversation one day for the two of us to really sit down. And I said, here is what, and I'd already started the business. And I said, here is the real story here.
Yeah.
Not yet making money. I need you to pay for
some help. Yeah.
I need some help. So asking for help, you've got to do it. Not just your husband or whatever, but you've got to share this plan with others. You need their support. It can be very, very lonely being a sole business owner. It depends on the business you're going to go to. Maybe you've got, you're starting a real estate business and you've got 4 or 5 employees or something, or you buy a franchise and you've already got employees. But typically it can be a lonely place where you don't have someone, there's no one telling you what to do anymore. You make the decisions. You've got to think through the issues. You've got to say, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to take that chance. You can't sit back and go, yeah, I'm not sure what I should be doing here. I wonder, because you used to be able to go and ask someone, right? In your corporate world, you can go and say, hey, Miss Manager, I'm a bit stuck here. Can you give me some advice? What shall I do here? And you don't have that anymore, unless you have a business coach. You don't generally have that, or unless you're part of a network which is very supportive of you. So those are some recommendations that I really would say to anyone going out there. Make sure you've got a supportive network and that your family knows what you're doing and that they're behind you. If they don't believe in you, you have to convince them to believe in you. Big learning for me as well. You've got to believe in you. If you are not sure, it's not going to work.
How can others, if you aren't sure of yourself, how can you expect other people to be sure of you? Exactly. What I'm getting from that, Linda, is it's the corporate world. You've got loads of people around you all the time, right? And now you're stepping out of that. So that there's that element that's gone, but there's also this building a support network of people, right? And it doesn't have to be this massive network. Whenever we say network, I think what is it, BNI? I think that's the big network. BNI. No, it like you said, is tell your family what the plan is, why you're doing it. Make sure they're on board, because they become your support system, at home, and put this out there into the universe per se. Let people know this is what I'm doing. This is the new role that I'm fulfilling, so that people know what you're about and what you're doing, and when you need help and assistance, you can call on those people, right? So something that you've generously offered of yourself is you've got a thing called I think it's called a cup with Linda or something like that. A virtual cuppa, that's it. So we'll put the links to that just now. But for anybody for all of those people who are thinking of doing it, Linda's graciously offered her time for you to sit and have a chat with her, maybe just to bounce things off. And I think that's quite valuable to have you doing it now, which is great. But outside of that, you need to have people that you can talk to who are on board and who will, because things aren't going to be easy all the time, and they'll sort of help you through those tough conversations and times.
Exactly.
All right, Linda. So we've dealt with the fear, we've dealt with support. Now you're in it, right? And what did that look like?
Oh, well, it's amazing. I love it. I've got the independence. I've got the freedom. I get to work the hours I want to work. I get to spend more time with family and friends. I'm part of several networks, actually, which energize me. So more than anything, these networks like BNI can be, about finding referrals for each other. It's an important part of being an entrepreneur. You need to create, I wouldn't call them strategic relationships, but relationships with your clients, with your suppliers, with your employees, with your, network connections. With that support, you learn every single day. So, 35 years in banking, I think I know it all, right? I'm like, hey, I'm a senior manager. I know it all. No one can teach me anything new. Rubbish. Everyone. I've learned from every single conversation that I've had. I've, silly, simple things like I've made stupid mistakes, right? I've done a coaching session and then invoiced the person after and then not got paid. And then I've done it again, and then Linda, you're a banker and a financier and a career woman, and you didn't get the invoicing part right. The following up on leads, I didn't get right because I was like, I don't want to make phone calls. I don't like making phone calls anymore. I spent years making phone calls, it's like weird, silly things like that. But more than that, you just learn from so many different perspectives. And I told you guys earlier that, I'm this left-brained, rational, logical, planning individual. Interestingly, quite a few of my clients are not. They're like the direct opposite of me. They're creative, they're emotional, they're scatterbrained, they chase the next shiny object all over the place. And they're looking for structure. They know that they need it to be successful. And what I find, what I get out of this relationship is a different energy that says to me, I don't have to be so structured 100% of the time. I can also get creative. I can also think up some new ways of doing things. I can have someone do a fun little logo here of me as an avatar, Yeah. I can do that now. It's okay. It's cool. It's fun. It makes me a real person and not not an automaton that people thought I was back in the bank. And I've seen, not only have other people said this to me, but I've also seen it for myself, how my very corporate image when I first started out on my website and everything has evolved into a much more approachable, fun, sort of open perspective and an individual. And you can come to, and it's changed the relationships I've had with clients, long-term clients, because some of my clients, my best ones, have been with me for 3 years. So I've seen the results, and they've given me the most fantastic reviews and testimonials to say I really help them to think differently and outside of the box, and I keep them on track. And I'm also almost a cheerleader, encouraging them through the difficult times. And and I just love the challenges. You just got to throw me a new challenge every week or every month, and I'm all over it. Even if I have to go and do some research, or if I have to ask somebody else, that's never scared me. That I don't need to know everything now. I know who to talk to, or I know where to go to look. And that's why I've got my name is Just Ask Linda, because the story behind that is that you can just ask Linda anything. I may not know the answer, but you're going to send me on a nice little chase researching it or finding out, so that I can present the answer back to you in a very professional way, because that I love to do.
Yeah. It sounds to me like, you're number one, you're enjoying your life, right? It's fulfilling. You don't have to be this particular person all the time. You're engaging with different people, and it's not always easy, but if you're building this ideal life and business, you should love it, right? You should be able to enjoy it. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Because then you're going to have to break free from that as well. So
exactly. I've got this jar up in the corner of my background. It says Glee with a little smiley face. And Glee has become my philosophy in life. Well, it always has been, but I didn't know it until I reflected and wrote it down. And Glee is an acronym that stands for Grow, Learn, Empower Others, and Enjoy. And Glee, of course, a synonym is joy. So exactly what you said, it should be fun. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong, or you're doing the wrong thing, or you're not doing it for the right reasons. So
there's a lot of introspection that needs to go on. And I think, a big thing is in our corporate spaces, we tend to say, oh, it's not fun, but because it's my job, right? It's my job. So I don't expect it to be fun, but this is more than your job now, right? This is the rest of your life. This is the business that you've decided to build. So it should be fun, right? And you should enjoy it. Just we've had a question here from Jackie. She's agreeing with you, saying it's tough in the beginning and startups are hard, and you're kind of leaving a 9 to 5 to actually move into a 24-hour day. And that's not always easy to get in. It takes time. I think the other side of the question is, what if you have to stay in corporate for now? How do you juggle that sort of relationship to still be happy, still work in the corporate, because you can't actually leave any sooner? Any tips there?
Yeah, it's tough. It's like when you resign from somewhere, right? And that last month that you work is hard, because you've already checked out and you're trying to do. What I did was, apart from spending some time on doing my research, was to make sure I've never burned bridges, right? You never burn bridges, guys. Is to make sure that my team or teams that I had at the time would operate effectively without me. And over the course of the 9 months, that was something that was kind of my baby, my topic, along with other projects that I needed to do, was to see them safe, because they were all going right at the end. I mean, they didn't know, obviously, but when I said I'm resigning, they were like, "Oh, what are we going to do without you, Linda?" And I said, "You are going to do just fine without me." And by the time I left, there was no need to replace me. Now, that was just me, right? But I felt good about it. And I bumped into the ladies and people that I left behind, and they've they're going up the ladder. So they're doing their thing, and they know it's possible to get out when the time is right. So it's patience. It's handling it. It's recognizing that if you've made the decision, but now you now have to work out some of the details. I think that's half the battle. I've made this decision. I'm going to do it. I just can't do it for the next 12 months. Therefore, I'll spend, some of my time planning in my own time, and I'll just do the job to the best of my ability so that I leave on in a clean way. So you stop.
Yeah.
I stopped fighting it, right? Because I was fighting it hard, and I stopped fighting because I knew that I had a plan. It might not have been completely formulated, but I knew that I was going to make a change, and it just needed some patience and just to, deal with the situation. So it's kind of like you got to breathe and accept and do what needs to be done as best as you can, so that you don't make enemies, and because you just it gets ugly then, and then you don't feel good anyway. So you just got to tone down your emotions, get them out somewhere else, go and hit a squash ball or something, and just manage it. But it's all about, if you've made the decision, then I think your brain is already, down the road. But it's just a good thing not to check out completely of your corporate career, because remember, you're trying to do the best you can to get a bonus at the end of the year so you can put that money away for the new business. So
I think
that should be your motivation.
What I'm getting from that is, look, once you've decided that you're going to leave and you're going to do something, no matter how long it takes, you almost, I think, start to reprioritize yourself in your corporate world, right? So I'm going to be there for the next 12, or let's just assume that you can't step out, right? You have to stay where you are for whatever circumstances
for
are.
your family, maybe you're a breadwinner,
financially, whatever it is. But I think the idea then is to prioritize yourself, right? So your happiness, your fulfillment, which may mean that you give less to the corporate world, and that may mean that you get less from the corporate world, but there's a trade-off again there, right? So if you need and you value your happiness and your fulfillment and the time with your family, and you can't leave the corporate space to get that, well, then you've just got to, I guess, give less in a way that doesn't harm your career and the relationships that you built, but it's just putting you first, right? Linda, we've got 4 minutes left.
I think Rio asked a question a long time ago.
Okay. Yeah. You want to?
But I'm not sure I understand the question, Rio. It just said how to make sure our business in this era. Is there? Maybe you can either type it in the chat. Well, I think that's your only option because you can't come on the screen.
Yeah, Rio, if you just want to share, elaborate a little bit more on that.
Elaborate a little on the question, and then we'll answer that for you.
But while we wait, Linda, anything else from your side? Any closing points before we get there?
No, I think you've just got to believe in it. Well, make a decision, believe in yourself, and then plan, and then act. Do it. Yeah,
I think that plan and act is, it sounds so silly, but you've got to act. You've got to act on it. You've got to do it. Rio's asking us to wait for a minute, so we will, Rio. we'll address it as soon as it comes up, Rio. I think just from my side, Linda, thank you so much for. Oh, here we are. What is so still building his business in this pandemic era. What do you think,
Rio? I'm going to suggest, it's coming up now, but I'm going to suggest you book a 45-minute virtual cuppa with me. It's complimentary, so that we could discuss a little bit more, because your question begs a lot more questions. What did you do before? What are you doing? What about the business are you asking me to comment on? It really, and I'm excellent at asking questions, right? You can just ask me one, but then I'm going to ask like a dozen. So I do recommend, in the interest of time, and I think we can have a real good chat. I'm happy to do that. So please book a time. The links are going to come up, I think, shortly in the chat.
I think Marcus has just dropped them in there. Yeah, guys, Linda's very graciously offered some of her time. There's a link to her Calendly you can book a meeting and have a chat with her and see if there's anything else that she can help you with in her business coaching role as well, right? The rest of her social media posts links are also up there. Thank you, Linda. I really appreciate you sharing with us and our audience today. It's been super insightful, and so a lot of the work that we do is I see people in these situations. So it's been really nice for us to be able to share how you did it and what it looks like and what you went through. Well-being and fulfillment are at the heart of what we do and the work that we want to deliver to our clients. We want our clients to live happy, fulfilled lives now and into the future. And quite often that means stepping out of the corporate world, which we acknowledge is not easy. But it is your life, and you do get to decide what that looks like, right? So it is up to you. And yeah, if you need help with it, there's myself, there's Linda. Reach out. There's a lot of people who can help you doing this.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Linda. Appreciate it. It's been great, guys. Thank you so much for attending, and have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you all today. Have a great weekend.